Hello everyone. I thought I would do a little bit of a different video today. Rather than just sitting there or standing there and talking to you guys, I thought I would take you on a walk. That way you can see a little bit of where we live. I'm zooming in here because we're gonna walk to down there and probably go to the left. Okay. So, what I wanted to talk to you guys about is the idea of knowledge. Different people have different understandings of what exactly knowledge is, and there are a couple things which are common understandings which I believe to be misunderstandings. So I wanted to talk to you guys about it, and hopefully it can encourage thoughtfulness, and I hope that it'll help you guys to make sense out of knowledge and everything connected with it, which again, everything connected with knowledge is really everything knowable. Everything that you can think of is in some way connected with knowledge. So for that reason, I think it's a very important subject. So one of the main misconceptions about knowledge is that knowledge is really coming to the point of not being able to doubt something. If you can doubt something, you don't really know it. That's the thought. But knowing something is just certainty to the point of no longer being able to doubt. Now, I don't think that this is really what knowledge is, and I guess the primary reason why is because anyone can really doubt anything. You can. And I'll give you an example. There's a philosophical position called solipsism. Solipsists believe that they are the only thing to exist. That everything else, everyone else, all nature, everything that you see right here, this water, everything, all of this is just a figment of their imagination. So if a solipsist watches this video, they will think that I and the water and everything around me, the trees, everything, all of this is just simply a figment of their imagination. Now here's the thing, and that means that they're doubting the reality of basically everything around them. Also, there are people who actually doubt their own existence, who really aren't quite sure if they really exist, and they doubt it. I cannot think of any one thing that is impossible to doubt. In other words, all things really can be doubted. Since all things can be doubted, and anyone at any time can choose to doubt anything, this shows that knowledge in any practical sense is not inability to doubt. If you want to define knowledge in that way, it really becomes meaningless in terms of practical life. Because again, you can doubt anything, so no one has that kind of knowledge. But the idea of knowledge is still a useful idea, and I think we need to understand it for what it is in a way that makes sense and that is actually practical and useful in the real world. So, here's the thing. Most people, if they don't think that knowledge is just the inability to doubt something, they think that knowledge and belief are kind of basically the same thing. Just maybe that knowledge is belief held more strongly. That if you really believe something strongly, then it's knowledge, then you really know it. But that isn't really the case either, and I'll explain why I don't believe that to be the case. Belief is essentially just assenting in your mind to something as being true. It's just holding a certain position, and you can believe something to varying degrees, greater or lesser degrees, but ultimately it's just holding a certain position, just thinking that a certain idea is true. That's what belief is. So here's the thing. Many people, and all people actually, hold various beliefs. But everyone holds beliefs that are actually contrary to someone else's belief. I mean, if you think about it, we just gave the example of a solipsist. I'm sure that not everyone believes solipsism. I, for one, don't believe that solipsism is a justifiable position or belief, and I don't believe what solipsists believe. So here's the thing. If I believe that everything around me is not a figment of my imagination, but is actually real, and a solipsist believes the opposite, well, we can't both have genuine knowledge of it, right? So we could define knowledge, at least roughly, as a mental construct that corresponds with the way things are. In other words, if you know something, it corresponds with the way things are. So here's the thing. Belief, while sometimes it corresponds to the way things are, it can't always. And this is, again, evidenced by the fact that everyone believes something different from someone else. Even if you hold very similar beliefs to someone, or as someone, you're not going to believe everything in the exact same way. There are going to end up being differences. Because we're all individuals and we all have different experiences, and by those experiences, we have different information. So knowledge and belief really aren't the same thing. Belief may or may not correspond to the way things actually are, whereas knowledge necessarily does correspond to the way things actually are. So what then is knowledge, and how can it be obtained? Well, I think that I already kind of gave a definition of how I understand knowledge itself. Knowledge is, again, it's some sort of mental construct. It is a conception in your mind that corresponds to the way things actually are. So how then do we gain that? And, we all want knowledge, because knowledge, if we have knowledge, that tells us the way things really are. It makes sense to us. We are in harmony with the surrounding world around us. That's very important. We need to have a true knowledge of things in order to be able to go about things in any sort of functional way in this world. So, how is knowledge gained? And how can you be sure that you have genuine knowledge as opposed to something else? Well, ultimately, and this, by the way, even though I'm just talking to you guys about this, I encourage you to look it up, because these are things that have been investigated before. People have asked these questions. People have done experiments to determine the truth of this. And essentially what it is that all genuine knowledge, all true knowledge, is gained by the senses. Not just by the senses in a really simple way like that, but ultimately everything's through the senses, but it has to then be categorized. It has to be organized. It's not just touching something once and you think it's a certain way and therefore, well, it must be that way. I gained knowledge. I touched it. No, it's not quite like that. But all knowledge is gained through the senses. But then we have to take what we learn from our senses and categorize it and formulate it and put things together and draw certain conclusions from the facts that we learn by our experiments, our experience through the senses. So here's the thing, and I'll just mention a few things. You guys can look this up. Someone who is blind from birth cannot conceive of what it is like to see. They don't have any knowledge of what visual perception is like. Someone who has been deaf, there's some ducks over there. Don't know if you're able to really see them, but they just kind of splashed the water, so I thought I'd point them out to you guys. So, yeah, someone who is blind from birth cannot conceive of what it is like to see. Someone who has been deaf from birth cannot conceive of what it is like to hear. They don't have any conceptual framework for hearing. They don't have any knowledge, any understanding of an auditory experience. You can go down the line with our different senses, and the fact is, someone who has never tasted has no idea what it's like to taste. These are things that have been experimented, and what it demonstrates is that knowledge is really obtained through the senses, even though it's not simplistic, but that's how it's gained. Someone who has never been able to hear or see or speak cannot think with words. because they have never gained knowledge of words. They don't know what words are. They cannot think at all how we think. We think with words all the time. But people who have never experienced words through their senses cannot conceive of words. It is something that is a foreign experience to them. And because of that, it just really demonstrates the truth of how we gain knowledge. It's through the senses. But not all knowledge is gained through the senses directly. We have direct and indirect experience through the senses. For instance, maybe even the majority of you watching this video right now do not have your mother sitting right beside you, or even in the same room, maybe not even in the same building. But do you know that your mother exists? Or if she has passed, that she existed? Can you have a genuine knowledge of that? Well, if you don't have her around you right now to be able to sense her with your senses, then how can you know? Really, are you going to just depend on memory? Well, what if you were separated from your mother at birth and you never actually even saw her? What if it was that quick? You never saw her and you have no memory of the first however many days, probably weeks, months, probably first few years of your life. So you don't have any memory. Well, do you really know that you had a mother? That she really existed? Well, yeah, you can know. And it's not a knowledge that is apart from the senses. It is just indirect knowledge. It's not direct sensory perception. I can go up to any one of these trees here and touch it and know that it really exists. I can see it and know that it exists. But I know that there's another tree that's way over there somewhere, and I can't see it right now. I can't sense it directly with any of my senses, yet I know it to be there. And how is that? Well, the reason why is because I've done the experiment. I have tested it. Even though I'm not doing direct experimentation right now, I have done the experiments and I know it to exist. But even with someone who has never seen their mother, has no memory of their mother at all, separated right at birth, they can know that they indeed had a mother. And the reason why is because the way that indirect sensory perception works is that we gather knowledge through our senses. And we use the knowledge gained from those past experiments and can apply them to similar situations in the present. So I'm going to give you guys an example here. Right now I'm walking, and I've been walking since I was 10 months old. And there's a number of places that I've never walked before. A number of points on the ground upon which I have never stepped. Can I know that the next step I take is going to be onto solid ground? Now I'm going to come just up here. Some sort of animal in the water. Okay. So, here we have ground. We have ground that looks solid before us. Now, right here, I don't know if I have ever stepped right there. I really don't know. Should I put my foot down? I can doubt the safety of stepping there. I can doubt it if I want. But should I doubt it? Does it make sense to doubt it? I'm noticing that time is short for this video, so I'm going to have to stop it here, and we'll continue on this experiment in the next video.